Folks, Chad here. Today I want to do a quick summary of how to build a similar wooden camping chair to this. It's also called like a Viking chair, stargazer chair, African chair. It has a bunch of different names, and there's tons of different ways to make this kind of thing and pretty much get the same result. So I basically researched online, both video and articles on what other people were doing, kind of figured out how I wanted to do mine. So each section is 4 feet long. I bought a 8-foot long 2x10. I went with 2x10 instead of 2x12 just to kind of reduce the weight and the size. And also I sat on the pieces of wood at Home Depot just to make sure that 2x10 was wide enough. 2x8 did not seem like it was wide enough, so I went with this one. So you want to cut it in half to have 2 4-foot sections. If you don't care about having a headrest, as you can see when I sit here, my head has a rest. I could actually take a nap like this. If you don't want that, then get a 6-foot long 2x10, and then it comes, down a little bit further, and your head can actually go back if you're tall enough. It depends on your height. I'm like 5'11", 6 foot, so if that puts things into perspective. So after you've cut it in half, you want to figure out which one you want to be your back piece and the seat piece. And you can do this based on cracks in the wood, where the knots are, that kind of stuff. And also which side's going to be the front versus the back, and which side's going to be the top versus the bottom. So like you might want to choose one to where the bottom, maybe one side of the piece of wood is cracked. So you want the bottom to be here to where you're cutting that crack out. Stuff like that you can consider. But if it's pretty much all the same or you don't care, then just don't worry about it. I also recommend, usually pieces of wood you buy will have like a stamp. So I put the stamps down here on the bottom. That way it's just kind of out of sight. And you can sand that kind of stuff off if you want. So once you have the 2 pieces of 4-foot wood, the first measurement you'll do is 13 inches up from the base of the back. So basically how this thing works is you're cutting a hole out of the back and then you slide this into it. So you're going to measure 13 inches up and then 1.5 inches above that. And you're going to mark horizontally. And then you're going to measure 2 inches in from either side and mark vertically. And you want to do that on both the front and the back. Then you cut out the hole. So you can do that a whole bunch of different ways. A jigsaw is probably the easiest. I just helped someone do it with an oscillating saw. And what I actually did for this is I drilled some holes with a wood boring spade set. So 3 1-inch holes. And then I used a folding saw and did it by hand. And also a hatchet. Because I didn't have my jigsaw yet. And the oscillating saw was borrowed from someone. So, yeah. However you want to, just get rid of this hole. And then the next cut you're going to want to make is for the seat. So I also did 13 inches here. So 13 inches from the end to down here, and draw a line horizontally. And then you want to measure 2 inches in from either side and mark that vertically all the way to the end. And then it helps to have like a circular saw to do this big long cut, but it could also be like a jigsaw, folding saw, whatever you want to do. Just cut off these 2 ends and save them for later if you want to do this back little brace thing, which I can show you what that's for in a minute. So then once you do that, you'll have this piece and this piece, and you basically want to get this to fit in here. So you might have to do some adjustments, cutting this out a little bit more, maybe shaving this down a little bit more. You can see with the hand axe, I smoothed the edges here, and I also kind of beaver tailed the end so it fits in much quicker. So, you get it lined up much easier when the bottom is like that. And then it's just a matter of, sliding it through. So once it's working, I honestly left mine like that for a few weeks before I started playing with it some more. The next cool thing to do, and actually more comfortable thing to do, is to cut the ends off here. So these measurements are 3 inches in from the sides and then 2 inches back. And then just cut, diagonally like that. And I also used a hand axe to kind of smooth this a little bit. That way it's not, tearing up your clothes or anything like that. Sanding would probably work well too. And then it's the same thing up here, mostly for aesthetics, but I'm kind of a function over fashion kind of guy. And this actually made it fit in a really cool spot in the van. It's basically like a border between like the main side door and getting inside. So like things can't roll into like the door well now, which is kind of cool. But it also makes it just fit there perfectly. Like it doesn't slide or make noise or anything while I'm driving. So yeah, 2 inches down and then 3 inches in from the edge. So it's not a right triangle, it's a little sloped down, however you want to say that. And then the feet down here, if you're using it, or like if you test it out and it's just flat on the bottom, like this piece of wood right here would make it off balance. It would be, kind of like teetering on whatever's in the center. But right now it's pretty sturdy. So the measurements down here, I believe it was about 2 inches in, mark vertically, 3 inches in on each side, mark vertically, and then 4.5 inches in from each side, mark vertically. And then about 1.5 inches to 2 inches up, mark horizontally. So then what I did is I took from the 2-inch vertical line, I straight edge drew a line over to the 3-inch vertical line. Across, well, I did that on both sides, and then I joined those 2 points and found from the center line, just made sure it crossed through and kind of, you can make sure it's equidistant, like the 2 points are equidistant from that center 4.5 inch. And your piece of wood, I mean, it's a 2x10. This is a little over 9 inches wide. So it's like 9.25 at most. So the 4.5 inch markers you put down there, which you don't even technically have to use if you're good enough to just figure out the 2 inch to the 3 inch. But you basically, if they don't match up, you just find the center point between those and then you mark that horizontally or vertically up and down. So then once you have the feet and it's styled like this, it's pretty much done. It's functional. It's as functional as this is. But what the back brace does is it allows you to slide this out and then store it. So now it's just one piece. It can be picked up with this brace. This also works as a hand grip. Or you can carry it like this as 2 hand grips. So the measurements for this back piece, it literally is the wood that was attached to the seat piece. So I cut off 8.5 inches on each side of the just spare junk wood. And that's what these 2 pieces are. I then I kind of eyeballed all this on how I lined it up. So I lined up the seat with the top of the back to where, they match, since they both have that, 2 inch to 3 inch triangle cut off. And then put these underneath to where it's going to keep this aligned with that. And I did these with the 2 inch side facing up and down, like this way, and the 1.5 stock 2x10 size going this way. So like this way, right here. And what that does is it's a little bit taller than this piece because, this is going to be the 1.5 inch, like this width. But since this is a little taller, you can fit your fingers underneath these. And also if you're carrying it like this, then the seat is actually resting down on that scrap piece to where you can fit your fingers in here and carry it. Like my fingers are actually, I don't know if you can tell from the video, but my fingers are going up into it. And then, once you figure out where these go underneath here, I just left like an 1/8 inch gap on each side so it wasn't flush, it's slightly set in, which also gives it plenty of space to, slide left and right here. So each side like that. And then just attach these, and I did these with the 2 inch side like this, and then the stock 1.5 inch width this way. That way it's just a little flatter. It doesn't take as much space, and it also helps hold this down a little bit better. So yeah, these are just 2.5-inch wood screws. And other than that, I mean, this was a pretty simple build. I did beaver, like I mentioned the beaver tail on the seat. I did flatten the back edge a little bit, just by hand with a hand axe. Nothing crazy. But I made it to where this is a little bit flatter back here to where it rests easier. Similar to the bottom, you don't want that to like rest on a rock or something. This just helps it rest flatter on the ground, or like on a rock or a piece of wood or whatever it may be. Yeah. It's a pretty sweet build. I've been using this because it gives me a lot of good back support if I just want to sit out in the forest or desert or wherever and recline. Everyone's loved it when they've seen it. I originally made it like mid-September when I made like the super basic version, but I just put this frame on less than a week ago because the person I helped, I told them that, you know, I was keeping the scrap pieces of wood. I had them under the bed for, you know, over a month. And I told them that it was possible and asked them if they wanted to do it on theirs, and they said absolutely. It sounded cool. So once I did it to theirs, they also, you know, cut the corners off like this, and I was like, hey, I actually really like that, like more than I expected. Do you mind if I like put that in the van and see if it fits well? And it fits super well, and actually it makes this seat piece fit even better as long as I had these facing out towards the door. And same day, like within an hour, I had this on mine. I don't like the hard cut edges, like this, like very 90-degree angle right here, like the square angles. So I still plan on going through and kind of like I did here, take my hand axe to just kind of like smooth things out and make it look a bit more, I guess, rustic. But other than that, this is complete. And if you're in the Arizona area, you want me to build you one, I think I'm probably going to start doing that like as a service when people see this and they want one. Just offer them a price and see if they actually want to justify paying that price, like actually paying me to build it, because my time is, you know, worth something. But also, if friends just want to learn how to do this or like do this at camp, I'll walk you through it, no worries. It's just you're paying for the parts, you're using the tools. I'm not going to do any of the steps for you, but I'll hang out and tell you how to do it, no worries. Which is also why I'm sharing, you know, this guide on how to do it, because I don't care if you steal my design, because it's not my design. I'm sure someone else has made it exactly like this before. But if, yeah, someone wants me to make one for them, that's when the price comes up. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this. Maybe you end up making your own, or maybe you just like seeing what I'm doing out here in nature, out on the public lands. Just life's pretty great. You can just do whatever you want. And if you're not comfortable with just sitting in a camping chair, well, why not just make your own? Because honestly, I've napped in it a few times. It's good for reading. It's good for being on a laptop. It's good for sitting around a campfire. It's simple. It's made from natural materials. Can't really go wrong. Did I mention the piece of wood only costs 20 bucks? Or, you know, you could go to a camping store and buy a chair for, what, over $150 if you want like an actual good comfortable one, not just one of those Walmart folding chairs. So yeah, big win. Hey folks, so I figured I'd show you real quick how it fits, just in case you also have an Astro or Safari. And this video is in fisheye lens in case anything looks weird. So because this corner is cut off, it can fit under this seat, which has been turned around. And this seat can be turned around. It's the factory seat. You just uninstall it and you reinstall it backwards. That's all you got to do. So to get it in, first move it inside. So holding it inside, and slide it along this plastic piece just underneath the seat. And then this side just goes flat. And now it's like a nice like border, like boundary to like prevent things from going in and out. If I leave the door open, then it probably also dissuades like dogs, maybe even like mice or rats or anything from getting in and out if I'm actually like gone for long enough. But you can see over here that it fits right on the wheel well with where the seat is. And then this back piece fits right up against my tote here for my cooking area. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for stopping by. Peace out. Enjoy the great outdoors.